Deputy Editor of The Spectator. A very good afternoon to Freddy Gray. How are you, Frederick?
Good afternoon, Jeremy. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm all right. So you're back from the US and you told me all along that Trump would win, and he did. Brilliant.
Well, yeah, I'd like to say I got it right all along, but definitely there were moments where I thought he wasn't going to win.
Resounding in the end, pal.
Pretty resounding, pretty resounding. I was at the election watch party in Florida, not in Mar-a-Lago where all the rich people are, but I was in the election night party, and it was an extraordinary night. I keep telling people back in London what an extraordinary night it was, and they keep shaking their heads and going, "It must have been awful. It must have been awful to be there." And I have to say, no, it was really quite an amazing, fun evening.
I just before we move on, I'm delighted in how the bedwetters, as I call them, are so, you know, all these women in America, I'm not having sex with my husband and I'm shaving my head for 4 years. It's so appalling. And 84 million people voted for him, so deal with it. Right, Freddie, so much to talk about. I want to start about the BBC. I'm fed up listening about Greg Wallace. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about Greg Wallace because I don't know whether it's true or not. Everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. My question is bigger than that. They expect us to pay £5 more on a licence fee next year. This is an organisation that we have serious issues with, not just their presentation skills and the things they talk about, the wokeness. I mean, let's nail it. Hugh Edwards got away with it. Martin Bashir got covered up. Jimmy Savile got covered up. It seems Greg Wallace was about to be covered up. All this from an organisation, right, that won't call Hamas a terrorist group. Why am I paying more money? They're a disgrace, man.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you about the licence fee. I think it should go. I think the BBC are a decrepit organisation in many, many ways and have far too much influence still over public life. I just don't see that the Greg Wallace story yet. I'm sorry to be boring. I just don't see that there's anything in it. I mean, it seems to me, again, like you, I don't want to get into the accusations because they seem so far pretty unstriking from what we've learned.
But isn't that bad? If you think about it, right, and I'm not getting into it, but when you say unstriking, the examples I've given you, I mean, Jimmy Savile, they still ran a Christmas special, and he turned out to be one of the worst paedophiles in the world. Hugh Edwards was being paid 200 grand whilst they knew about the severity of watching images of 7-year-old kids. Martin Bashir, probably one of the most deplorable acts as a journalist ever. They have form, Freddie, is what I'm saying to you. I'm not putting what's happening right now on a pedestal. What I'm saying is the British public, we're supposed to go, that's the state broadcaster. We trust decency and straight down the line. No, they're woke, mad lefties who seem to, maybe I'm wrong, stick up for the wrong people.
Well, any major organisation that is state-funded and has a kind of moral position in society has a tendency to cover up crimes and abuses. Yeah. And I think the BBC is as guilty as that of the Church of England, or even, you know, my own church, the Catholic Church.
But doesn't it make you think, though, in that sentence, which you're so right about, there are major questions to be asked by our state broadcaster and the Church of England. We went through all that Welby stuff. He covered up, or basically didn't report it. The bloke could have been arrested and charged before he died, Smythe, or whatever his name was, that vile paedophile. And the BBC the same, and yet they jump on the bandwagon and they say things like, oh, you've been disrespectful to this transitioning person, or I don't think it's fair that you're labelling people who kind of claim some land as terrorists. Well, they've blown people up. It's like they seem to get the basics wrong. Do you know what I mean, Freddie?
They do seem to get the basics wrong, and I think I just disagree with removing TV programmes because they might be triggering for viewers when we don't know what the allegations are. If you think it's triggering because you know something, you know, fire him. Don't just investigate him. Fire him now. But don't sort of protect viewers because their feelings might be triggered.
But that's exactly what I mean. It's not proactive. It's always reactive. And with the BBC, it always seems to be late to me. It's always too little, too late. And listen, I'd love to know what everybody's thinking. 0344 499 1000. Do you trust the BBC? Do you think the licence fee should go up? What do you make of it? Let's bring it to politics. Dear Freddy Gray. Again, you know, Starmer the Farmer Harmer, two-tier Keir, I've run out of names for him. This, I'm just calling the wrong word and got told off the other day. So yesterday I read he's going to, against advice, he's going to create a better relationship because he knows that Donald Trump's going to come into this whole thing Today he's warned Trump Britain will not side with the US against the EU. Do you, as you know American politics rather well, do you think that Donald Trump's, in his own inimitable way, is going to take a little bit of revenge on Keir Starmer for the Labour Party sending people to Kamala Harris's election campaign and other things, or not?
Well, as I understand it, Starmer had this meeting with Trump earlier this year.
Oh, was that when Lammy had 2 helpings of chicken?
Exactly. Of chlorinated chicken. I think. Well, but I mean, I think Starmer came out of it thinking, "Oh yeah, I can definitely work with him. I impressed him." Trump apparently came out of it and said, "Who's that left-wing lunatic?" I think the Trump orbit, the people in Trump world, are very suspicious of Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, particularly Elon Musk, who is, of course, very close to Trump now, although there's some discussion about how close he really is at this very moment. But Musk was horrified by the Southport riots and the clampdown on free speech, particularly on his platform, after those riots. And he did not appreciate being summoned by the government to kind of testify about X's behaviour in the days after the riots. And indeed, he threatened, as a joke mostly, but he might well do it, or he might well make sure that it happens. He threatened to summon some Labour MPs to talk about their threat to free speech. And so Trump world sees Starmer. They see the whole rest of Europe moving rightward. Yeah. And they see Starmer as a kind of socialist problem for Britain. And Britain is a country that Donald Trump cares a lot about. Yeah. Normally, an intelligent diplomatic country, when the leader of the free world, arguably the most powerful position in the world, no, undoubtedly the most powerful position in the world, when someone like that has an affection for your country, you would try and work it as much as you can. You'd foster it, wouldn't you? You'd absolutely foster it. But this lot, you can imagine the howls that took place behind the curtains of 10 Downing Street when he absolutely won. Talking of Musk, I wanted to ask you about the other thing, because yet again, this Labour government with little or no thought about the consequences. This is obviously very, very political. Rumours that the political donations that people can make to political parties could be capped amid rumours of a £100 million gift that Elon Musk might make to Reform to get Nigel Farage elected like Donald Trump in the United States. So what's old Keir going to do? I'm going to cap it. They'll stop at nothing, this Labour Party, will they? Well, and it also seems rather stupid of them, perhaps, because, if it wasn't for Reform, they probably might not be in government. That's true. I bet they're terrified, though, that there will be some sort of strategic alliance. Whether there ever would be or not, I don't know. Well, I think they probably are, and also they can see that Reform long term is a threat to them. Longer term is a threat to them. I think it's interesting that they are so exercised about this, and it's interesting that Elon Musk is considering putting his money behind Reform, particularly because the Tories at the moment are so broke. Donors are abandoning them in their droves. Are they? And so if you have a very well-funded Reform Party, a broke Tory party, and a Labour Party that everybody hates, it is an interesting. Well, I was going to say, actually, I don't think Labour would lose because the other parties have had more money. If you ask me to times, so they've had half a year. If you times that by 10, I mean, they wouldn't be elected for a century the way it's gone. I mean, it is absolutely appalling. More fury today. This is typical Labour, isn't it? Since they came to power, Freddy, I'd love the spectators and your view on this. 67 reviews, more quangos, more task forces. Instead of actually damn well doing something about the problems in our country, just talk about it and set up a committee, man. It's rubbish. Well, as Jacob Rees-Mogg so wisely put it, to govern is to choose, to govern is not to review. Yeah. But Jacob Rees-Mogg can't really talk because the Tories did a hell of a lot of reviews and commissions and committees. And this is increasingly what we see. And it's always on the subjects that really matter. Where things just get bogged down, like anything important to do with the NHS that might make things better will get bogged down in endless committees, endless parliamentary interrogations. And it speaks to the fact that our democracy doesn't seem to work very well at the moment because the political class like reviewing things. They don't like taking difficult decisions. Completely right. Can I just ask you, this is brilliant, you'll love this from Graham Pack. Could you ask Freddy, does he think the government will set up a review to review why there are 67 reviews? Which actually, I mean, you can see that happening, can't you, to be fair? I'm almost certain that there needs a review into the review, and then following that, a review into that review, and a sort of hall of mirrors of reviews going into the future.
Before we leave the Labour Party, it was the weekend, so I didn't get a chance to ask you. Louise Haigh, the redhead or pink hair or orange hair lady, who got ousted as Transport Secretary for, let's be perfectly honest, putting a claim in for a mobile phone which she'd still got in her pocket, whatever anybody says. It must gall people, right, who maybe are listening right now and have had a 12-hour day and struggling to pay the bills and all that sort of stuff. She's going to get about 20 grand in severance pay. She's been a minister for about 8 weeks and a pretty ineffectual one. And it strikes me that that could be looked at, couldn't it, my friend?
Well, I wouldn't find that story irritating if Labour hadn't made such a big deal about severance pay and how they were going to fix
Precisely.
it. But they're never going to fix it when it affects one of their own, or it stands to make one of their own worse off. And so it's classic Labour hypocrisy. We're seeing more and more of it on countless different fronts. And it's another reason why Labour are plummeting in the polls and will continue to plummet in the polls.
I saw a Reform poll at the weekend that had them level in the lead in Wales, which is interesting. We'll leave the Labour Party. I just want to get your view, Freddy, because you're always on the button. Shocking sort of news. Everybody watching this breaking news this afternoon. South Korea's president, in an address to the nation, has declared martial law, which basically means I'm putting the army in charge. He says that opposition parties are taking control of parliament, that North Korea's getting involved. You can see some pictures there. The South Korean president declaring martial law. Yet more turmoil and strife across the world, my friend.
Well, the world point is the thing that strikes me the most. I mean, it sounds to me as though Yoon Suk Yeol, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. It sounds to me like he is a man in desperate trouble, grasping for a desperate solution.
Yeah.
He's had all sorts of corruption problems, and he has lots of political threats facing him and legal threats facing him. So it sounds like that's a sort of attempted coup d'etat by him. However, given what Trump did with North Korea in the first Trump term, this speaks to something that I think is going on all over the place, which is as the world prepares itself for a new Trump administration, which is going to do foreign policy differently, you are seeing big dramatic things happening in global politics. And it's not necessarily just to do with Trump, but it's just very interesting that it's happening at the same time. Look at the potential civil war now breaking out in Syria, which is a sort of spillover effect from what's been going on in Lebanon between Israel and Hezbollah. So you've got world politics. Trump has been saying all year that we're heading towards World War III, and it looks like it's kind of coming to a crunch just as he's about to take over America on January the 20th. Going
to be a ride, isn't it? I have to say. And actually, before we go, very, very quickly, what are your thoughts about Joe Biden pardoning his son Hunter, having spent 4 years saying he wouldn't? What did you make of that briefly?
It was always going to happen. Why did we have to pretend that we believed him? I can't believe how many pieces I'm reading in the American press today saying it's actually the right thing to do. It was always the right thing to do. A few months ago,
those papers not worked out that people didn't care about the lies they propagated or the billionaire pop stars that got paid to stick up for that useless woman. The majority of Americans wanted Donald Trump. And I'll tell you something I think, and you might disagree, you probably would disagree with me. I think this country's crying out for somebody like him, mate, who has conviction, who has a belief and doesn't listen to all the bedwetters and gets on with it and does something.
Well, so does Elon Musk, and that's why he may or may not be pumping $100 million towards reform.